anywhere outside Europe.
COVID-19 must be fought globally. The EU support is focused on the people most at risk. Africa and Nigeria are vital priorities and must not be forgotten or left alone. Now more than ever, we want to show solidarity with our partners. The EU solidarity with Nigeria at this momentous time will save lives. It will also ensure that we protect the gains of the Sustainable Development Goals while safeguarding the livelihoods of the most vulnerable, especially women and girls.
The only desire of the European Union, Mr. Carlson explained, is to be properly guided by President Buhari and genuinely support his vision, priorities and policies towards addressing the situation.
We wish to commend you thoroughly, Your Excellency, for taking bold measures to limit the spreading of the virus, flattening the curve, reducing the adverse economic effects and increasing availability of testing and treatment. Nobody and no country can fight this scourge alone. I personally think that we have never before had a better partnership with Nigeria than under these difficult circumstances.
The EU had already provided 1.2 million euros to UNICEF for the COVID action of the government.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who commended the European Union for the gesture, said the donation will go a long way in supporting Nigeria's efforts at controlling and containing the global pandemic, as well as revitalizing the national health systems.
I'm indeed touched and grateful that the European Union still has the vision and foresight to remember its friends, partners and allies across the world. This brotherly support will save millions of lives. Nigeria will remain grateful for generations to come.
Nigeria, President Buhari maintained, has done a lot in the fight against COVID-19 and efforts are now focused on preventing community spread.
I want to assure you, in this fight, Nigerians are united. And by the grace of God and the continued support from our partners, we will succeed.
The President used the occasion to express sincere condolences of the government and people of Nigeria to EU member countries and families who lost their loved ones as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, expressing confidence that the global community will emerge stronger from this tragedy. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And in an effort to contain the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the cessation of movement in Lagos, Ogun and the Federal Capital Territory for 14 days through the COVID-19 Regulation 2020, which started from March 30th of this year to enable the government identify, trace and isolate individuals that have come in contact with confirmed cases. In order to contain the disease, a press statement by the President reveals that following events of the past weeks, which shows increased number of confirmed cases of the disease in the country, President Buhari signed the COVID-19 Regulation number 2 of 2020, extending the lockdown orders by another 14 days with effect from Monday, April 13, 2020. The statement clarifies that all exemptions under the COVID-19 Regulations 2020 remain as exemption under these regulations. In the meantime, public affairs analyst Dr. Abdulrahman has commended President Muhammadu Buhari's directive for expansion of the social register by 1 million households within the next 2 weeks. Discussing President Buhari's broadcast on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria on the topic, Dr. Abdulrahman, however, expressed concern over the lack of baseline data to track distribution of the palliatives.
To ascertain the veracity of the claims of government. So, and this is an emergency situation. An emergency situation in a country where there are no baseline, where census has not been able to determine the number of households. We've not even discussed what is the number of households, what makes up a given household, whether it is 6 persons, whether it is 7, whether it is 8.
The President's directive will ensure that government's palliative package gets to more families likely to be more affected by the lockdown. Let's now briefly go to Lagos, where the state governor is giving updates on COVID-19.
To flout the rules are brought to justice appropriately. Let me also say it again. There is no zero tolerance for disobedience of these directives. Insecurity. This brings me to issues that seem to be arise and has led to unrest in the metropolis and in our border communities. It is very apt that we have just concluded an emergency security council meeting this afternoon, and you can see all of them behind me, in which we've all looked at our various strategy has been fashioned by the various heads of security agencies. At this meeting, we discussed the increasing report of crime and criminality across the metropolis, as we have seen cultists, miscreants, and other criminal intents sought to take advantage of this lockdown to unleash havoc on our people. One of our key responsibilities as an administration is the safety and security of life and property of all our citizens, and we will not abandon this responsibility at any time. There is no room whatsoever in Lagos for criminal gangs or miscreants of any kind. In fact, in the last 72 hours, 17 hours, they've arrested over 100 suspects for various levels of disturbances, and all of them will be charged to court accordingly. Let me also assure you that these miscreants that you may have seen in videos going viral are not hungry people. They are not acting on the basis of hunger. They are opportunistic criminals, and they will be treated as such by the law enforcement agents. We've been in close and constant communication with the federal government and also with the Inspector General of Police. And I want to say that he had agreed that there will be a deployment of a Deputy Inspector General of Police to come to Lagos to also help increase and be able to fight this situation that we find ourselves. The DIG that will be sent down is a seasoned crime fighter, which will help all our various intervention squads. With this revised strategy, we will see an increase in mobile police deployment all across the trouble spots around the metropolis, as well as police intensifying their patrols around residential areas, our boundary communities, and other critical areas of activity during this lockdown period. This will be carried out in conjunction with other security agencies, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Department of the State Security Service. All of them are behind me, and you can see that all of us have agreed to continue to work collaboratively. I would also like to talk about the various palliative measures that we've set up and we're currently doing, and what we intend to do going forward. We've rolled out several cushions, the inevitable and harsh economic effect of the lockdown to our citizens. As you know, we issued our first set of stay-at-home directive and announced a welfare food package for indigent, for vulnerable segment of our society. We acknowledge that there were a few inches whilst we did the very first set, but I'm sure you'll agree with me that we have since reviewed our strategy, and the subsequent ones have seen a better delivery mechanism. I'd like to also mention that to date, we have been able to intervene and reach over 200 households, which include the vulnerable, the physically challenged, the elderly. Also during this time, we're also able to feed a large number of the organized informal sector, junior members of the military and the police force in Lagos, as well as minimum wage earners in the Lagos State Public Service. As you're also aware, we announced a medical palliative for all those who are in need of our medical care at our 27 secondary health institutions and 57 grade A primary health facilities. I'm pleased to announce that within the time these have started, over 18,000 patients have been able to access and be given free service at each of these facilities that I mentioned. And I'm also glad to announce that over 600 childbirths have also been recorded within this period, all being free of charge. I'm pleased to also announce to you today additional palliatives for our citizens, which we believe will further ameliorate the inconveniences occasioned by this extended lockdown. In the first instance, in the next couple of days, we will commence what we'll call a daily food kitchen program, which will be an attempt where on a daily basis we'll be feeding about 100,000 youths. This, we believe, will meet some of the immediate challenges that we've seen in our streets. We are currently identifying local food vendors who will pilot this program and will ensure that the process of cooking and serving this meal adhere strictly to health guidelines. We're also in the process of cleaning up our data for our various social register to get a clean list of truly vulnerable and economically challenged persons to enable us to remit cash to them. At the first instance, we're planning to remit cash to about 250,000 indigents before the end of this week, once the data is cleaned up. Thirdly, I've just given order to the men of the police, LASMA, and the VIO to release all impounded vehicles arrested for minor traffic offenses from the 1st of March to date. This directive will take effect immediately after the lockdown. But let me say this, that this directive is for vehicles that have been arrested from the 1st of March, like I said, minor traffic offenses up till today. If because of this directive, tomorrow or next tomorrow, you now take your vehicles and you now say you want to infringe and flout the rules, you will not be covered by those exemptions. These exemptions are for the cars and vehicles that have been impounded to date. And immediately after the lockdown, they will not be charged. All their vehicles will be released to them free of charge. I'm also pleased to announce that all of our MSMEs and SMEs who have taken loan from the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund and other government programs in any loan form, they're going to enjoy a 3 months interest-free moratorium from this month, and each one of them will not be charged any interest on all of these loans that have been granted to them. This is going to be costing government a whole lot of money, but we believe that at this point we need to be able to assure all of them that government is with them at this very difficult time and there's really nothing for them to worry about. Let me also use this opportunity to express, therefore, our gratitude to the health workers who have been on the front line against the battle against this unforeseen enemy. They will continue to be our priority at this time and beyond, even as you work to protect all of us. And you make it a duty that will end this pandemic as soon as possible. I think it's important for us to express our gratitude too to the various faith-based organizations, the organized private sector who have worked with us on this journey. Though it's been a long and uncertain one, we've had very worthy partners in all of you. This has shown that government cannot do it alone, and we're grateful for the opportunity to have been able to partner with us on this very important and life-defining journey. I also cannot end this very short speech without thanking Mr. President, President Muhammad Buhari, and the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and the Chairman and members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for their strong leadership and the exceptional support they've given to us. Last week, you were all aware that they made a trip down here, and there's some palliatives that they've agreed that they will also be sending down to Lagosians. Dear Lagosians, as I end this address, let me once again remind us all that this is a season for obedience and of personal responsibility. If we follow the guidelines as issued by the health experts and the authorities, we will most certainly contain and defeat this virus. Please let us cooperate with the government to ensure that we have an outcome that is favorable to all. I can assure you that we will surely overcome this pandemic and will emerge stronger and more determined to transform the life of our citizens and Lagos, and by extension, our country, Nigeria. I want to thank you all for listening, and we're just open to a few questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Nationwide. That was the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, giving an update on COVID-19 in the state. And Nationwide continues. Now, earlier I had an interview with Mukhtar Imam of the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy based University, Abuja, who spoke more on the President's broadcast of last night. Here's an excerpt of the interview. I'm sure you listened to the President's broadcast last night. Now, what was your take on the broadcast?
Well, first and foremost, the broadcast was, the content of the broadcast and the broadcast itself weren't unexpected. A lot of us expected this to be the scenery from the first broadcast the President made at the end of last month in this regard. Reason why that is so is because the upward trend in the cases of infected or affected individuals by the COVID-19 pandemic was skyrocketing all over the world, across board. So it was expected that this would be the case because, of course, it is very apparent that successes are being recorded all over the world using this measure of quarantining people and self-isolating and keeping people at home. So it was only a matter of time before this was going to unfold. So yes, it was expected. As for the content of the speech of the President or the address of the President, it was very apt. It was straight to the point. It spoke to the issues currently trending, the issues affecting our lives, which is basically our lives today seems to be revolving around the COVID-19 pandemic. So all of the issues were basically very apt and straight to the point. And of importance to note is also the issue of the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Nigerians, because apparently the sit-at-home policy will have untold hardship on Nigerians, which is inevitable. Let's talk about,
the palliatives. Now, you are aware that about 2.6 households, were being supported through the conditional cash transfer to cushion the effect of the lockdown. Now, yesterday's broadcast, the President has ordered an additional of 1 million households to be added to the already 2.6 million of the most vulnerable households in the society. Which other group should also be a target for this palliative?
Well, truth is, whether the palliatives, the stipends that are being given to individuals to cushion effect. For the 1 million individuals that are left, I think it's very important that the government puts some measures in place that will be able to address the individuals themselves directly, because there are a lot of artisans, there are a lot of people without jobs, there are a lot of people indifferent, which you cannot basically quantify using assumptions. So there's the need to find out precisely. We should have a laid down principle on how to identify these individuals.
There are some people who are grumbling, over the extension. They don't really want it, and some of them believe that the COVID-19, the coronavirus, is not there. They don't believe that there's a kind of disease that will affect them. What do you have to say to those kind of people?
But the reality here is this: that it is evident, it is apparent. People can see from their television screens, people hear over the radio about this pandemic is real.
Mukhtar Imam there on the President's broadcast. Now for an update on COVID-19 from Lagos Zone, let's join Hingino.
Thank you, Ifoma. In its quest to curb the spread of coronavirus pandemic, President Muhammadu Buhari announced an extension of the lockdown in Lagos, Ogun and Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, by 2 weeks. As expected, this step has generated reactions from Lagosians. Annie Daniels, who went round town to sample the opinions of Lagos residents, has details.
Roads and streets remain calm, devoid of the hustle and bustle Lagos is known for. Then we saw this crowd at these newspaper stands. They are known as Free Readers Association of Nigeria, and their topic of discourse is the extra 2 weeks lockdown declared by President Muhammadu Buhari in his nationwide speech on Monday, 13th of April 2020.
Lagos and Abuja today have the capacity to admit some risk.
President Muhammadu Buhari announced that the extension became necessary after carefully considering the briefings and reports from the Presidential Task Force and the various options offered. This has generated divergent views from Lagosians.
In Europe, in China, Europe, Italy, US, see thousands of people are dying. It's real there.
People have been expecting that the lockdown seems to be extended.
We have to survive the sacrifice, because if the lockdown is not extended, the virus might spread.
While respondents see reasons with the government to extending the lockdown, their next wish is that palliatives and food stimulus made available gets to the right quarters. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, Nta News.
That's it from Lagos. We now take a break. Nationwide continues shortly.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Staying at home is the most responsible thing to do. Please, learn a new skill. Be a better version of yourself. That's what I spend my time doing. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. I beg, make we sit down for house. I know some of us want to get back to socializing, but if we don't sit down for house, no good feel happening. Please, stay safe and stay responsible.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're welcome back. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says as at 9:50 p.m. on the 13th of April, 20 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, bringing the number of confirmed cases to 343. Of the new cases, 13 are in Lagos, 2 in Edo, Kano and Ogun states each, while 1 is in Ondo. The NCDC says 91 patients have so far been discharged, while the death toll stands at 10. This new data of confirmed cases cuts across 19 states in Nigeria. And fears of the new rising coronavirus in some parts of China linked to people from abroad nearly sparked diplomatic row between China and Africans. Viral videos in circulation about evictions of Nigerians in particular and other allegations of inhuman treatment in Guangzhou created tension, making Nigeria and China to strike a deal for a solution to the issues. Usman Aliyu now reports.
Coronavirus, which dooms the global economy and restricts social life, could have also smeared the international relations between China and other countries, particularly Nigeria. Joint efforts between Nigeria and China exhibiting high sense of decorum is needed at this time to douse the tension because of the allegation of racism against Nigerians in China.
We are good brothers, we are good partners, we are good friends. There is nothing change about that.
Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister says, based on investigations, what happened was entirely a misunderstanding involving Chinese officials and some Nigerians who tested positive for coronavirus or returned from a journey to another country.
The message I'm getting is that they're now on top of the situation, that the Chinese government and our officials there are working closely together. Of course, it didn't help either that one of the Nigerians who was asked to be confined and taken to hospital, shown to be positive, or rather refused to be tested.
It is expected that with the steps taken by both Chinese and Nigerian authorities, mutual suspicion between citizens of the two countries is over once and for all. Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
Following the extension of lockdown by President Muhammadu Buhari to contain the spread of coronavirus pandemic, Abubakar Usman Akwanga examines the situation and level of compliance in the FCT.
This is day one of the extension of lockdown in the FCT, and as you can see, the level of activities in the city center remain the same. Right now we are at the Ahmadu Bello Way, and it is not business as usual for motorists and other road users. Security here, of course, is tight as only few vehicular movement are allowed, most of which are either seekers or providers of essential services. The popular Garki market. Here, neither sellers nor buyers are around to do the usual hustle and bustle, as the main entrance to the market is under lock and key. And as part of measures, findings show that officials of the market have deployed market guard to key areas to ensure that no trader violate the presidential directive on the extension of lockdown in the FCT.
The level of compliance may not be uniform across the Federal Capital Territory, but the enforcement of the directive is carried out in line with statutory regulations by security agents.
As the federal government is gradually succeeding in the fight against COVID-19, the prayers of most Nigerians is for the country to overcome this scourge in no distance time. But how are we prepared to adhere strictly to all the infection prevention measures outlined by NCDC to ensure that the country and its people return to normal life? In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Many thanks, Abubakar. Meanwhile, the Corps Marshal, Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, has ordered commanding officers across the country to step up ongoing enforcement on restrictions and social distance amongst vehicle occupants and carry out the presidential directives holistically by impounding at sight any vehicle found violating the orders. A statement by the Corps Public Education Officer BC Kazim, the Corps Marshal's directive is to reiterate the commitment of the Federal Road Safety Corps towards sustaining existing collaborations with the federal and state governments in the fight against the ravaging coronavirus and further ensure that the order on restrictions are diligently and effectively enforced with all sense of professionalism, civility and resilience, while warning citizens to comply with the restriction order or face the wrath of the law. Oyeyemi also advised essential workers who might be tempted to compromise with the social distance directives in vehicles to restrain from such, as the virus does not discriminate nor spare anybody irrespective of class or profession. Now, for the situation report on the new case of COVID-19 in Ondo State, let's join Ogokchukuka for that.
Welcome to Benin. The new patient of COVID-19 in Ondo State, a medical officer at the 32 Artillery Brigade, Akure, has been placed on isolation as the state's infectious diseases hospital while efforts are on to trace his contacts. In the meantime, the blood sample of the first index case, which was collected for another test, returned negative. Olubukola Aduo is standing by for details.
Studio. The third case in the state is one of the 9 contacts of the index case, who is a military officer while attending to him at the military hospital here in Akure. The sample of the health worker was sent to Ede in Osun State and it came back positive on Monday night.
Latest development is just a confirmation that the community transmission has already begun. So that means that we are not just talking about people who travel down from Europe or America. It's already been spread from people to people. So this is a contact of a patient who was here. So that means that we really need to take all the measures, both for prevention and case detection, very, very seriously.
A review of the precautionary measures put in place by government is seriously being considered as a result of the third case.
Government will have to take a stiffer measure. I think it's as if there is no choice now. Because if we don't do so, I'm afraid we may be confronted with a situation that is beyond our control.
However, government says there is no need for panic, assuring the people of the state that all necessary measures to curtail the spread of the virus in the state will be adopted. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Lubukola. And in Edo State government is seeking the support of citizens in curtailing the spread of coronavirus. This is coming a few hours after the state government recorded additional 2 confirmed cases, bringing the number to 14 and 1 death. Good luck, and any reports on this and the situation in Ekiti State.
Since the state government announced its index case of COVID-19 on the 23rd of March, there has been a steady progression in number of suspected cases. The record indicates that the state has a total of 96 suspected cases spread across 12 local government areas of the state, with Oedo, Esan West, Ego, Esan Central and Ipoba Oha local government areas having 36, 18, 8, 11 and 6 cases each. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Patrick Okundia, attributed the increase to poor compliance with the stay-at-home order and other guidelines.
Though we are hoping for the best, in the sense that we don't
expect this disease to ravage us and create death amongst us, but we must prepare for the worst case scenario. And that is what you see in the plans and all the efforts the Edo State government has put in place.
He adds that as part of increased efforts to detect and manage cases of the disease, the state government has secured additional testing facilities at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital and the Stella Obasanjo Hospital. Meanwhile, the state government has been distributing relief materials to the vulnerable members of the society. From Ekiti State, Ayodeji Ogushaki reports that government has extended the curfew and restriction of movement of residents to an additional 14 days, just as government, individuals and corporate organizations have continued to provide palliative to the needy. Some of the beneficiaries were at NTA Ado-Ekiti premises to receive the items donated to them by the state government but distributed through the station. The city has been devoid of heavy vehicular and human traffic except those on essential duties. In Benin, Goodluck Enaini, NTA News.
If I'm that's it from here, it's back to you.
Many thanks, Ogochukwuka. Now, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, has directed the immediate termination of the contract of 2 payment service providers for their total failure to meet the contractual agreement to commence conditional cash transfer to beneficiaries in 4 states of the Federation aside to the 2 payment service providers. In a statement signed by Salisu Nta2 on behalf of the minister, the affected states are Bayelsa and Akwa Ibom in the south-south, Abia in the southeast, and Zamfara in the northwest. The immediate termination of the contract stands with the guidance of the World Bank and a new procurement process launched using World Bank procurement guidelines to ensure that payments commence in the affected states on or before April 28, 2020. The minister says the federal government cannot accept delays in the current payment round of 20,000 stipend to beneficiaries in poor and vulnerable households under any excuses in the 4 states or any other states of the Federation. Okay, we now join our correspondent Emmanuel Enyimiro at the airport for an update of situations there. Over to you, Emmanuel. We seem to be having problems with our audio there. We hope to get back to Emmanuel later. Now, meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development says the 500,000 strong N-Power enrollees throughout the country should expect to receive bank credit alerts for outstanding payments of their monthly entitlement from today, Tuesday, April 14, 2020. This follows the signing of the payment mandate by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, after following due process in line with federal government's public financial expenditure. In a statement signed by Salisu Nta2, the minister is quoted, "Now that the rules have been followed strictly and the process concluded, I have been given the assurance that they will start receiving credit alerts from their banks today, Tuesday, April 14, 2020. End of quotes. The minister also restated the resolve of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari to overhaul the national social investment programs, including the N-Power component, to ensure transparency, effectiveness, accountability, and the judicious application of public resources in running the programs. About 200 trailer loads of grains out of the 70,000 metric tons approved by the federal government to be distributed to vulnerable Nigerians to cushion the effect of COVID-19 lockdown have been dispatched for onward distribution to the beneficiaries. Correspondent Ilyasu Ali Yakubu visited the Mina silo where packaging and loading of the grains were done simultaneously to meet up with the immediate dispatch of 12,500 metric tons of the grains to Lagos and Ogun states.
This is the silo in Mina, Niger State, one of the federal government strategic food reserve centers across the country, where the handing over ceremony of the approved 70,000 metric tons of grains took place by the Minister of Agriculture, Sabo Nonono, to the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk. 6 strategic food reserve centers in the country have been earmarked for the immediate dispatch of the...
I believe we now have clear audio from the airport where Emmanuel is standing by. It's over to you, Emmanuel.
Presented by you this evening. On behalf of the Ministry of Health in particular, I'm sure you will listen to the representative of the PTF who will give remarks on behalf of PTF and of course by and large on behalf of the people and government of Nigeria. I want to thank you. You have made a very, very remarkable statement that is referring to humanity, and that is one common code that binds all of us, whether you are from the east or from the west or from the south or from the north. It is humanity that binds us together, and it is that humanity that you have demonstrated today. We thank you very much for this gesture, and we will do everything possible to use this to assist our people, particularly those that have been positive for this COVID-19. And rest assured that the supplies given to us this day will be utilized to the maximum benefit of our people. Thank you very much. And you're blocking the camera. Well, my dear friends, gentlemen of the media, thank you very much for today, and thank you very much for all the support. On behalf of the task force COVID-19, we accept this kindness from the UN system, and we assure them it's going to be utilized for the betterment of our people in this country. And in particular also there are other support agencies that we're grateful to as well, including the airline, Allied Air Cargo, who volunteered to ship this consignment from Lagos into Abuja at a very, very short notice. Allied Air Cargo, we thank them, and we thank the UN system, and we thank each and every one of you who had contributed to bring in this equipment, which will be utilized in support of humanity. Thank you very much indeed. Then we will go there and do the sign ceremony which you capture. Thank you.
This is another batch of donation coming from the United Nations. The first time came a few weeks ago when 3 ambulances were donated to Lagos State to contain the spread of coronavirus. A few weeks ago also, the Nigerian permanent representative from the United Nations, Professor Tijani Muhammad Bande, also facilitated about 80,000 pounds, which is about 32 million naira, to buy some personal protective equipment. Now the members of the PTF are going to check what the items are all about.
Are we ready? I'm signing on behalf of the task force.
Signing on behalf of the federal government is the Minister of Aviation, signing for the items that has been delivered. The items, I can't really tell the number of items here, but about 50 ventilators and so many testing kits items are part of what Nigeria is receiving today. Present is the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the Minister of Health, a representative from the United Nations, and so many other dignitaries, including a member of the media, that are on ground to give coverage to this epoch ceremony. Any moment from now, we'll have to try another interview with the minister so that he will tell us the content of the items that have been received on behalf of Nigerian government at the cargo section of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Briefly, I don't have a seat with you.
Sorry?
I need to have a loving Here is a representative from the United Nations. She's going to be telling us about some of these items that we have here. Hello, good evening. What are the items that we have brought here?
So we are bringing you test kits for COVID-19. We're bringing you ventilators. We are bringing you all the essentials, basic stuff you need for a good response, and we're doing that as one UN in collaboration with the government, and we're very excited it finally arrived.
Can you quantify some of these items in terms of figure?
So for the entire itemized list, I don't know all of them by head, but one of the things we are bringing is 50 ventilators, and there's in total a total of, I think it is 10,000 test kits, but don't quote me on that, and I'm on television, so you will. But it's a substantial amount, and we're very happy because the government needs it, and we need the Nigerian people to get access to testing, isolation, and treatment.
Yeah. Like the third time Nigeria is receiving items from the United Nations. I would like to receive more.
Is what, sorry?
This is the third time Nigeria is receiving items from the United Nations. I would like to receive more.
We will continue our collaboration with the government, and we also have, as you know, established a basket fund, and part of that will also be commodities. So yes, we expect more support from the United Nations to come. Thank you.
Let's back. Let me come down. Sir, we are live on NTA.
Yeah, let's back the consignment.
Some of the content. Let's just finish a few to them.
You gotta be represented. Where's the minister?
Yeah.
Sir? Okay. As it is from here, the United Nations has guaranteed Nigeria that more protective medical equipment are going to be donated to Nigeria. So it is going to be good for those of us who are in the country. It is going to be good for those who are patients who are suffering from coronavirus infections, good for those who are alive, and good for the nation at large. Back to the studio.
Many thanks, Emmanuel, indeed, for that cheering news. The Nigeria Police Special Tactical Squad has smashed a two-man car stealing gang led by one Bashir Isiaku, notorious for stealing cars from the car park of the Jos University Teaching Hospital in Plateau State. The arrest of 34-year-old Bashir, a graduate of one of the federal polytechnics, came after painstaking efforts and investigations by operatives of the squad to hunt down the criminals. Bashir and his accomplice Aminu Yakubu specialized in using customized master key crafted out of screwdriver to open and start vehicles. Police investigations shows that their choices of cars are ones without special security features such as pedal or steering locks. A total of 21 vehicles have been recovered. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer DCP Frank Mba indicates that these brand of cars are in high demand by criminals either in whole or in parts across the country and other neighboring countries. Similarly, a 28-year-old female Amara Fatima Gadba has been arrested alongside her gang of kidnappers and armed robbers notorious for attacking innocent Nigerians around Sokoto, Kebbi, Kaduna and Niger states. And for more on police arrest of about 500 violators, let's join Zinret in our Jos studio. Hello Zinret, it's over to you.
Thank you and welcome to Jos. As the 7 days lockdown declared by the Plateau State government enters its 5th day today, over 500 violators of the stay-at-home order have been arrested and prosecuted by law enforcement agencies in the state. Commissioner of Police Plateau State Command Isaac Akimoide revealed this in a chat with Rinret Sylvanus Lot.
5 days into the lockdown directed by the state government, the general atmosphere, according to the Commissioner of Police, is that of general compliance in the city center, even though defaulters were picked across the state. The CP revealed after a brief meeting with other security heads in the state the various penalties meted out to the culprits.
They were charged to court. Few of them were discharged and acquitted, while majority of them, probably 90% of them, were fined or imprisonment for 6 months.
He also mentioned 2 groups of people who were intercepted while coming into the state from Abuja and Lagos in defiance of the stay-at-home order.
At Jingre, our men at the border, they intercepted a vehicle bringing 9 people, and then we discovered that those 9 people were coming from Lagos. Also, this morning, the men of C Division and the other members of the security team arrested 9 people inside the bus, and the bus was coming from Abuja. They were accosted and they have been taken to mobile court now. Probably they will go for quarantine.
The police commissioner further appealed to residents to stay at home and support government prevent any entry of the coronavirus into the state. In Jos, Rinret Sylvanus Lot, NTA News.
To ensure residents of Jos and environs do not suffer water shortage during the lockdown, Plateau State government has taken measures to supplying water to areas that do not have access to potable water. Indenyang and Diabagang reports that it is part of palliative during the 7-day lockdown.
Since there is a restriction of movement as a result of the total lockdown, the state government is reaching out to residents and critical institutions with one of the very basic necessity of life, which is water.
Communities and institutions that do not have the water board pipe network and those with faulty lines are the ones being served.
We thank the state governor and all the people that brought this water to us. We are very thankful for this.
The water has been supplied throughout the Angwa. We really like it. The government have tried.
A bag of water now, I think it costs about 115 naira in the market. And a couple of these shut down. We are really grateful.
The Commissioner for Water Resources, Saad Bello, along with management of the Plateau State Water Board, monitor the distribution of water.
Of those areas rely on water vendors. Now the vendors are out of sight. So we need to, government has to provide water to these people free of charge so that people can remain at home.
Residents were advised to observe social distancing while waiting for the water. In Jos, Ndenyan and Abidjan, NTA News.
That's it from Jos. It's back to Ifoma in Abuja.
Thank you very much, Zinred. We now take another break. Nationwide continues in a moment. To stay.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Electricity is part of day-to-day activity.
When there is no light, there is no life.
It's as if we have been ostracized here. Our children cannot even live normal lives.
Instead of buying things plenty that will spoil, we are buying it small. For us to go to the market, come, we will spend not less than 250 naira.
James, I don't know. You need to answer your question. Hello?
Is this Mr. Peter? I'm calling from the NCDC. Your friend, Mr. James Okripocha, was brought in this morning and tested positive for the coronavirus. He mentioned that he had been in close contact with you.
God forbid bad thing.
Sir, I am not saying that you have the virus, but you have spent some time with him over the past 14 days, and it is better if you self-isolate immediately.
I don't know any James at all. Even the only James in the Bible that I know as a good Christian.
Sir, he showed us pictures.
Now, wow.
If you have come in contact with someone who has tested positive for the coronavirus, self-isolating is key to protecting those around you. Remember, viruses don't move, people do. Stopping the spread is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
As the world combats the novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, the Nigerian government is committing funds and donations are coming from the private sector to tackle the virus. The emergency response to COVID-19 should not be abused as an opportunity for corruption. Do not embezzle the funds. Do not extort money from patients. Observe due procurement processes. And all citizens must guard against the peddling of false information. Do the right thing. Integrity pays. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
And up next is a quick check on the weather prospects for tomorrow. And that's Nationwide for today. We thank you for watching. Please stay safe. I am Ifoma Ojinta.
this containment period to identify, trace, and isolate all individuals that have come into contact with confirmed cases. We will ensure the treatment of confirmed cases while restricting further spread to other states. Movements of all passenger aircraft, both commercial and private jets, are hereby suspended. Special permits will be issued on a needs basis. However, we must all see this as our national and patriotic duty